Now, while most of you like to learn how to jungle, a lot of you simply want to be told who to jungle, which champions will give you the best chance of success to not only climb and reach your ranked goals, but also to destroy the meta with something that no one's ever seen before, a unique playstyle that lets you carry losing lanes, destroy enemy junglers' fantasies, and become a unique Chad of the forest. So in this video, I will give you 3 hidden OP junglers, and we will go over the first clears, itemizations, their ability maxes, what you should be doing in terms of jungle routes, and how you should be looking to play them in order to get some wins. If you have a different hidden OP jungler that you've been playing and finding success with, please do let me know in the comments. I'm always looking for some unique and fun picks for the gameplay channel, as well as just to look at and see how the meta can develop. And yes, while the next 2 might be a little bit more hidden and you might not know who they are, the first one, yeah, that's Mordekaiser. In the jungle bootcamp I had about 2 weeks ago, me and Phalaris were talking very frequently with a lot of people who were asking questions. What junglers can I use in low elo to get gold? What unique junglers can fight well, farm fast, and basically carry laners who have difficulty reading a compass? But people kind of wanted something that wasn't really said before. They want something new, something fresh, something that can bring a unique spin to the jungle that not only their enemies will have no idea how to handle, it just gives them innate carry potential. And Mordekaiser was the one we referenced quite a lot to low elo players to get gold. However, on my gameplay channel, I've frequently spoken about Mordekaiser as well, and even done a video how he can work to get you diamond, and you can even play him in high elo. So how do we do this, and what's the playstyle, and what are we looking at? So obviously, if you like farming and, scaling and having a dominating ultimate, you probably like Karthus. You probably like Shyvana. You might even like Evelynn. Well, now you have Mordekaiser. He duels incredibly well. He has extremely good ganks once he has his level 6. Decent early, but of course you're quite slow and that hook is a little bit predictable, but nonetheless it's serviceable in between your full sequencing clears and for any counter ganks. At the same time, he farms like Karthus, scales like Karthus, but he's an AP bruiser, he's a fighter, he is a juggernaut. Basically a Karthus whom cannot be bursted down. And the longer a fight goes, the better he becomes, the stronger he becomes, and that's why we of course like the Conqueror rune set, which you would have seen on your screen. Riftmaker is the go-to. You can use a Nash's Tooth if you like, or you can simply still do the Demonic's Embrace. Liandry's is an interesting one if you are being giga-kited, and obviously Zhonya provides Zhonya's things. But what makes him so potent is that first clear is very much easily done in 3 minutes 13. That means you can be in time to contest crabs, you can be in time to contest 5 camp junglers. With your W max into E max, you can start to farm extremely quickly even on your second sequence, and very often you will do a full sequence, try and get 2 crabs in a gank, and then you can just carry on sequencing in the meantime. You can get a very fast level 6. At the same time, when you do have that level 6 and you're fighting enemy junglers, you're invading them, you're ganking them, you're fighting for dragons, Mordekaiser does percentage max health damage per second. And if the enemy jungler is going to try and yeet a camp and everyone else is dead but the jungler, well, you send them to Brazil in your ultimate into the Shadow Realm, and your team can finish it off, and then you can finish him off because you're going to be stealing all his stats. Well, what feels like all his stats. So in essence, what Mordekaiser brings to the jungle is why you're basically saying, listen, I'm weak to, invades early roams from the mid lane, invading junglers if my lanes are losing. Yes, you're farm heavy, so you're telling your laners, listen, I'm not going to be ganking for you. I'm the win condition. You're playing it a little bit like Hecarim in that sense, without the ability to rotate and actually make those plays. And your early ganks are very weak. You can be kited obviously, but that's where the Rhylight comes in, and your damage will fall off if you don't sequence and play properly, because you don't want to be behind. See, unlike a lot of meta junglers where you really have to survive 15 minutes and basically make it so that the fact that you're a jungler doesn't matter, if you're playing Heimerdinger or Zyra jungle or whatever, that's right, Heimerdinger, you're just trying to survive, you're just trying to cope, you're just trying to get to that point where you're just the champion that you always wanted to be, you just use jungle to get there. Mordekaiser simply doesn't have that issue because his strong CC, and I guess we can call Death Realm CC because it basically removes someone from the game, his passive magic penetration from that E as well, coupled with that CC contained within that spell as well, which means when you slap in his passive, which is the max HP per second, with his shield that comes from his W, a smart, proficient clearing Mordekaiser jungle that understands he can do dragons and heralds absolutely just fine will be something that will dominate team fights at every turn. Your Q max damage does a huge amount of burst when you hit a single target, much like Karthus again. Single targets will simply get annihilated, and coupled with your sustain, your heal, your shielding, and everything else that you have, your dueling potential is nigh unmatched when you have a lead. The key is acknowledge that you are not exactly a Karthus early, you're not exactly a Hecarim early, you don't have those same strengths, at least initially, but once you get going, a good couple sequences early, remember that's what you're looking for, sequence and farming, you're looking for 7 CS per minute minimum. You will, as you can see from some of the highlights with the scoreboard here like Malice has done, and I hope you've been noticing this, have giga huge insane CS leads over enemy junglers who are having high variance ganks. You can now invade them 1, 2, 3 levels up and just kill them and take their stuff. If there is a ganking jungler who falls remotely behind you from his early plays, make sure you punish him, let your laners do their thing, and then of course make yourself known and present on the map, control the objectives, and now use that huge lead that you've garnered over the couple early game sequences that you've had and just simply smurf the game. You are the win condition, you are Summon a Rift border control with your ultimate, and as long as you track, counter gank, and do enough early that your lanes don't get too far behind, you will have no issue being the win condition through great farming and carrying any sort of game state. Now the next one I have here is Sion. Do I think this is some kind of hidden OP source that can really carry you a lot of games and get you to whatever rank you need and desire, like with Mordekaiser? No. Is this still something that's insanely strong and can be used to control win conditions and play around the necessary game states for you to carry most games? Yes. What he also provides to you is a plethora of itemization and rune options. Dark Harvest, Predator, Aftershock, Glacial Augment I've seen a little weirdly, and obviously Grasp of the Undying. And now a lot of you are going to say, whoa. Yeah, I saw that, Grasp of the Undying. Why are you talking like that? Well, the rank 1 Sion who has 1,000,000 points in Korea got master last year on that server using Grasp only. And before I fully explain that, remember you have a lot of build diversity as well. You can go Prowler's Claw, I've seen some go Axiom Arc, just run it down with your ultimate, hit towers for all time. If you don't really want to pay attention to your team, much like Mordekaiser, and I guess that's kind of a theme in this game, how do you carry if all lanes are just potatoes? You can simply go Hellbreaker and do a 1-3-1 split push macro if you decided to do that, or simply, just 1-4-0 and never join your team. However, you also have prototypical tank builds where even though your full clear, which is 317 by the way, is not the best, well, it's pretty solid for a tank like Sion, and of course only 4 seconds slower than Mordekaiser, but you're not necessarily looking to solo control crabs, solo control rivers. You're looking to farm it up, stack your HP passive, and Grasp of the Undying, as I mentioned earlier, is the rune that really has surprising amounts of power. That's because it's the only rune that scales with health. Think about that. All you guys see is the proc. Well, you're never trading, so you never proc it. Okay, but I also get a lot of HP as Sion anyway, and I also get a lot of HP from my items if I'm going full tank, which means my rune, when I do proc it, and when I do have it, is going to give me immense amounts of value. So while you don't necessarily get to permanently grant yourself that bonus health because you are not proccing it as often as you would in lane, you're still getting a huge amount of value by your own passive, by your own itemization, so when you do actually get that proc in those team fights around those skirmishes, it is still doing a lot of work. And I literally had this discussion with King Nidhogg when talking about Grasp from the jungle's position, and this was something he really drove forward, is even though it's a little, weird to run on Jarvan, it's still something that everyone needs to think about. And that's what I'm trying to bring forth a lot of my content, as well as read the runes that you are actually going. Think about what works with your builds. I've given you some samples here with the nice effects and showing you what these junglers can run, but because they're hidden OP, they're a little off meta, there are other ways to optimize them, and there's a lot of players who run these different setups in high elo with these champions. Now remember, with Sion, obviously we're a little slow in the full clear front, but what he does provide immensely is while you can become a split pusher and forget everything, you are a dominating team fighter. Get a lead, run Aftershock if you want, run Grasp if you want, run Predator if you want, but a full tank Sion from the jungle who can just sequence well, do good lane ganks with his ultimate, hit towers whenever he can, and just sit back and control the pacing of the game because he knows he's going to become a monster very shortly. These are the ones that will end up carrying. Now, he doesn't have the same versatility in terms of Mordekaiser as a damage carry jungler, but let's not pretend this tanky boy is not something that really thrives in this particular role and has a huge amount of skill expression in terms of itemization, rune setup, and playstyle that can make him work even when you're not in the top lane. And finally, with the thematic of this video being, taking control of your own destiny, just using something a little bit different, why don't we throw in Jack's jungle? Now, a lot of you might be confused. Wait a second, I thought you said Jack's jungle is crap. It is, unless of course you understand the nature of Jack's jungle. While Mordekaiser and Sion of course benefit from the full clears and simply playing a bit more conservatively, Jax doesn't have that innate luxury. At best, you can 306-5 camp on Jack's jungle, and that means you can still have tempo advantage to get into a gank, to invade on someone else's jungle, to steal a crab. But if you're 6 camping much like a Viego or an Echo, you don't really want to be doing that if you're looking to get onto the map soon. Which means a Red Raptor's Grump is the best way to go, because you can simply translate that to a gank top lane, you can translate that to a gank mid lane. If you're doing it the other side, obviously bot lane's included as well. You can invade enemy junglers and use your lethal tempo or PTA if you wish to simply outburst them and out-sustain them down with DPS. Obviously Conqueror is your default rune page, but you do have those options available to you as Jack's jungle. And while this video for my gameplay channel was before the fighter item changes, it is still very much true today. Look at exactly how this Jax plays early. 3 camp action, using his counter strike to reduce the damage taken from champions so he can actually tank a bit more from the turret, which is something you have to think about even if it doesn't block that damage. And he uses the knowledge of how much Jax can tank and how much damage he can dish early in the game to make plays that the enemy simply won't expect because they don't know what Jack's jungle does, but it also gets you really fed against ignorant laners in lower elo games, mid elo games where they simply will not pay attention to wards, they will not pay attention to what you're doing, and while most junglers are being safe and farming, you're on the map getting shit done. which in turn forces champions like Mordekaisers who are AFK farming to do something about it. But if you're not doing it properly as Jack's jungle, you will fall behind, even though you scale and do farm very well later on. You do not match the tempo of a farming jungler like Mordekaiser, Karthus, and so on. The build, as you would have seen, centers around Trinity Force, Blade of the Rune King, and Death's Dance. You can skip Blade of the Rune King and go straight into Death's Dance as well as more of Mortius. That is one of the decisions I've seen high elo career Jax jungles do. And remember, while you're looking for 3-cam action and to make plays, you can always reverse clear down if it doesn't work out. And you do have split push component as well, something really strong all junglers in this video have. Strong team fighting, strong split pushing, good objective control, strong dueling, strong itemization, diversity in terms of root pathing as well as rune setup. And so if you decide to play one of these champions, get those clears down, use my friend Phalaris' channel. I would have shown this video and linked them all below. Make sure you're actually playing to the strengths of each champion. Obviously, it feels like a lot of them have a lot of strengths, but remember, the reason they're not meta junglers is because they do have downsides. There are other champions that can do certain things better than they can, but they do a lot of things very well. So if you do them properly, you're a good pilot of the champion. You should have no issue finding success with these 3 hidden OP junglers, especially those who want to get gold. Trust me, it does work. And if you want to get diamond, 100%. And as you get more into high elo, obviously the Sion and the Mordekaiser will be much stronger. And if you're wondering what is the difference between, say, a challenge million point player and a gold million point player of a particular champion, what's the thing that separates them? Why don't you click the link in this box to go and explore that and apply it to your own champions to simply become a master and a challenger of whatever champion you main.